starts with you, only you. A cosmic dance, the truth so true. From the ether to the earthly plane, all you seek, you can attain. The quantum flow, the light you hold, creates the story that will unfold. Every thought and step you make, the universe is yours to take. It starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light. Through the shadows, your soul takes flight. The winds will shift, its timeless bend. Every cycle begins again. Your energy builds, it flows, it streams, aligning rims, igniting your dream. Each vibration, each sacred sound, a universe, moves resound. You are the spark, divine and true, illuminating. It's all you do. Just remember, it starts with you, the mirror's hue, infinite skies reflecting you. From the void, you birth the light. Through the shadows, your soul ignites. The path within, the path divine. Through space, your world aligned. Every rise, every fall, you're connected to it all. It starts with you, the quantum view, manifesting dreams like the morning dew. From the stillness, creation flows. Through the darkness, your spirit knows. It starts with you, only you. Through dimension, through the veil, the sacred truth, and you prevail. Now infinite, clear, and true. This road ahead, it's made for you. It all begins and ends with you. Even the chaos, through the flame, you rise anew, never the same. Every heartbeat, every sign weaves your essence, soaring high. The cosmos bends to your command. Creation moves within your hand. It starts with you, only you, only you. It starts with you. Get in the building, family. It's Friday night, and I decided to come and grace you guys with my presence tonight. Come in and say hello as you get in the building. We're going to hold some space tonight, and I want to take my time to do it. So let's get these disclosures on the way. I share my own experience on my journey to healing. I am a certified life coach, and my mission is simple: to restore knowledge of self rooted in balance, truth, justice, reciprocity, and divine knowing within me. The beautiful thing is you don't have to abandon everything that you've been taught to receive what's available. Access is already in you. Now, let me remind you of something powerful, and I quote, "The works that you see me do, you can also do, and even greater works than these." How does that work tie, you ask? Gaining the power from within. So while you're waiting on Jesus, lend me your meantime, because if you don't recognize your responsibility in this process, everything you do is useless. So if it don't apply, let it fly. If some apply and some don't, eat the meat and spit out the bones. If it all applies, eat it all and apply the knowledge. Get in the building, family. Topic tonight is Peace Breaker. Let's tie in. But I'm here for a short time, not a long time, hopefully. And I'm going to actually have to set the intentions before we get started so that we can actually unpack this topic tonight. So I invite you to stand in a space with me. And as we go on this journey of unfolding, I invite not just your body, but the energy that surrounds it, your history, your lineage, your inner child, and the parts of you that learn to survive quickly and quietly. So take a deep breath with me. Let that travel beyond your lungs to the places where your mind keeps circling. And ask yourself gently, what have I been holding on to so tightly that it has turned into an obsession? What am I obsessing over? And before you answer that, sit with it for just a minute. Tonight, we set the intention to honor what is showing up without trying to control it, to loosen our grips, and let go of what we need to let go of forever. We set the intention to stop proving our awakening and return to living in it, to bring our energy back home instead of chasing everything outside of us. Tonight, we are not here to fix everyone. We're here for ourselves. We're here to reclaim ourselves because everything starts with you. So we set the intentions to tell the truth without turning it into another prison, to release the need to be understood and rest in understanding ourselves, to recognize where I learned to control and gently choose alignment instead. And in this moment, I return to myself because what's mine starts with me, and what's yours starts with you. And I say, and so it is. Hotep. Welcome in, family. Welcome back in this space tonight. For those of you that are new here, my name is Ty Simitawi, and I welcome you into the space where it starts with you, where there's no shame, blame, or judgment. However, we do hold ourselves and one another accountable here in this space. We do a lot of things different over here. So if you're just coming in, be open to the possibilities of what may show up, because I guarantee you don't get it anywhere else like you get it over here. So welcome in to this space. Now, if you decide to and you feel like you want to share, put it in the chat. If you're a little bit shy and you want to, remain anonymous, send it to my chat. I'm always kind of having something on the side so that I can read your chat. And if you want to remain anonymous, I can read it on your behalf. But we're going to actually here set the tone, because the goal here is not to shame anybody. The goal here is awareness. And the goal here is also the honest truth. So what we've been unpacking, I always have to hold up this circle. In this circle are going to be the things that you know, right? The things that you think you know. But outside of that circumference of awareness, there's going to be a lot of things that you don't know. And that's okay. So now, last week we unpacked something very heavy but beautiful. We talked about selling out, but not in the way that you were taught probably. We didn't reduce it to betrayal of others. We looked at what it means to solely disconnect from ourselves with those systems that we inherit, those beliefs and those patterns, and protect them without questioning. We threw ourselves on the sword and say, you know what? Don't say nothing about what I believe. What I believe is what it is. We have to start questioning those things, where they came from, and who are they serving? Welcome in, family. Who do these narratives that we're living with, actually what we're dealing with, who are these narratives good for? We saw what a sellout looks like, going along to get along, keeping the peace at our own expense, defending what you've never examined. And the deeper truth was uncovered. What was that, Ty? You don't just inherit traditions, you inherit conditions. And if you've ever questioned them, you will protect what you once helped, what you held on to, and what helped you survive this chaos that we call life, even when it no longer helps you. So we're going to unpack that tonight. Welcome in. Y'all say hello as y'all get in the building. Welcome in. It's Friday night, and we're going to be unpacking some beautiful things. And please Take your feelings, maybe put them in your pocket while you're here, because Ty is actually she's truthful. I am truthful, and I hold space with that. So tonight we're going to go deeper. Last week we I gave you 3 things that are required in Ma'at. It was peace, justice, and righteousness. And you can't have balance if one of those things are out of alignment, or if one of them are missing. You can't have alignment. You can't have those peace, justice, and righteousness in the space if one of those things are out of order. They go together. Let me say it like this. They go together real bad. And tonight we're unpacking what peace looks like. So topic tonight is peace breaker. And I want to start by challenging us to think. Think about the things that you were taught about peace. What did it look like for you? How did it show up in your life? And you know, of course, Ty won't be Ty unless she share her own experience. It looked like for me. What did it look like? Staying quiet, even when something didn't quite feel right. Not questioning leadership because they knew better than I did, and that's how we were trained. You don't know everything. Going along with the program so that, it doesn't cause division. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. Smiling, even though you don't feel like smiling. Showing up on that job and putting on your good face. Participating even when you was disconnected and I was disconnected. I've done that too. Avoiding hard conversations and calling that being Christ-like, because that's what Jesus would do. And none of those things are in alignment with peace. The things that I went through when I was a Christian, when I was a part of the gang, I'm going to call it the gang of religion, because that's what it is, was a distraction. I was distracting myself. And when I think about peace, I think the first thing I think about, and what showed up for me, and this is my specialty, religion. It was structure, routine, something to hold on to so I didn't fall apart. And if I'm being honest, I had a fear of living without it. I had a fear that I would go to hell without it. That was the narrative that was painted for us as children. And what it gave me, it felt like peace. But I had to ask myself some hard questions. Welcome in, family. I had to ask myself some hard questions. Was that really peace, or was that protection? Was that your body's way of saying, I'm in survival mode. I feel like there's danger that's showing up in this space. How do I protect myself? So dive in head first. So when I say I'm a peace breaker tonight, I'm breaking it down. And because we never like to assume that people know what things mean, let's start with my favorite part, the definitions. I never take it for granted that anybody knows what these things mean, because these narratives have been changed and rearranged and all the things. The term peace breaker isn't just something I made up. If you break it down, the word peace is a state of agreement, calm, no conflict. Breaker is someone who interprets or disrupts or ends something. Welcome in, family. So a peace breaker literally is someone who interrupts a false sense of calm to reveal what's really going on underneath. We're talking about what's really going on tonight, and this is important. Now, when I reference and I talk about the biblical text, I'm not speaking on it as if it really happened. I'm not saying that it's an historical event, but because that is my experience, I talk about it a lot. So I don't want you to confuse that with me saying, okay, this is what really happened. I'm saying it in an allegorical sense to prove a point. So as I talk about it tonight, put your feelings in your pocket. So y'all, Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Contrary to what you were taught, Ty is breaking things down like you've never seen it before. So I tap into the metaphysics of the thing. And you're not going to get that anywhere else but over here. And I'm going to say this for the people in the back that love this allegory literally and love to take it that way. I've been there, so I can empathize and I understand how this shows up for you. But let's break that down. A sword wasn't about violence. It was about separation. Separation, separating the truth from tradition, what was taught from what actually was. So Ty, what traditions are you talking about? I'm talking about the things that show up. What you've been taught was peace, what it should feel like, but not what peace really is. Not everything that's quiet is peaceful. Just because you walk into a place and it's quiet doesn't mean that peace resides in that space. I've been in some of the craziest fights, family. I've had some knockout, drag outs where I got to the point where I'm not going to say nothing, but I was warring on the inside of myself. Welcome in, family. I was warring on the inside of me. I've seen when people go to their mutual corners, but there's still no peace. And let me tell you something. I had it all wrong. Because sometimes it's just relief or it's a distraction rather than peace. And there's a difference between that. Because you can build a life where nothing is questioned. You don't confront anything. Nothing is disrupted, and call that peace too. And that ain't it. That's controlled avoidance. And that's dangerous. Because the mind will take anything that reduces suffering in the moment. We've unpacked that before, how your mind just automatically goes into a space of, I just want to protect her, or I just want to protect him. Your mind automatically does that without your permission. And it starts to label things. It feels safer over here, so this must be good. Even if it's slowly disconnecting you from reality and allows you to live in a fantasy. And that's why last week I mentioned that God is dead. And I said it with my chest because the things that I was calling God, that you call God, has become empty and lifeless. But it comforts you. It had built a system of belief that used to shield me from the responsibility that I didn't want to face. It stopped me from taking accountability of the things that were showing up in my life because I was not okay with taking accountability for it. And Black women, we are the top candidates in most cases of people. Men say that we lack accountability. And I had to sit with that. I had to sit with myself to say, why is it that you can't hold yourself accountable? And it wasn't because I was trying to destroy something. And that's why I say all the time, you don't have to abandon what you were taught. But because I started to see what I was given wasn't producing life. It was producing distance. Distance from what, Ty? Distance from myself, from reality. And what I had been taught was sin. It produced a lot of distance. And I had to re-examine that too. Because what if sin, and I'm asking you this, family, what if sin isn't just about behavior? Not only that, what if they lied? What if sin is really separation? Separation from your true nature, from the truth of who you are and your fullness and your wholeness. And if that's the case, then being born again is not about take me to the water and making me be baptized. It's about returning to alignment, to wholeness, to a state where you're no longer divided within yourself. And that's when something clicked for me, because I kept thinking, thinking back about this perfect peace that I've always heard about, that the text used to tell me about as a child. And when I was growing up, it says, keep me in perfect peace. And I started to think about that. But I had to ask, what does that actually mean? Because the word perfect peace means nothing's missing, nothing's broken. It means wholeness. And it says it comes to the ones that minds is stayed, not distracted, not divided, or warring against itself. And then the light bulb went on. Because it makes sense now. I wasn't keeping perfect peace because I avoided everything. I was afraid of everything. Family, let me tell you, when I could think about a time I was afraid of my own shadow. I was afraid to turn on the lights and see myself. I was ashamed to see myself in my full glory. So I distracted myself with so many things. And when you're kept in perfect peace, you no longer separated from yourself within. And everything starts with you. And that's what I had to face. I had to learn how to function disconnected. And what I didn't realize at the time was I wasn't finding peace. I was distracting myself from the questions, the pain that was showing up, the truth. I was distracting myself from the work that I needed to do on me. But what's powerful is in this biblical text, peace was never described the way they have given it to you. That has been mistranslated and misinterpreted and ran all down and through there. They was wrong. Listen, it says peace. I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you this peace as the world gives it to you. So what does that mean? According to the text, the kind the world gives you and the kind that's real. One is based on escape. The other is based on alignment. And after sitting with that, I realized I had to accept a version of peace that required me to stay disconnected from me. And we should be asking ourselves these questions. Am I really this person that I put on in front of everybody? Is that really me? So I had to go back to the beginning. When I looked at, the original state before the trauma, before the conditioning, before I learned how to cope instead of understanding. Let me say this plainly. Welcome in, family. I'm not saying this really happened. However, I am using this, like I said before, and I have to keep saying this because oftentimes it'd be like, yeah, amen. Then when they find out later, they be all up and they feel like that ain't what you said. So before Adam partook, before the split, before polarity was fiddled with, before they start messing with your polarity in the story, Before everything became good versus evil, right versus wrong, what you should do, what you could do, what you can't do. Before it became that. Welcome in, beloved. Thank you, Miss Cheek. Before all the things happened, because before that moment, there was no internal conflict. And I want y'all to stay with me on this story because I'm going to show you how it shows up in your life tonight. There was no war within themselves. They had nothing going on. Everything was what it was. They had no second guessing, no division between what was felt and what they did. That's why the text says they were naked and not ashamed, because there was no fragmentation anywhere or any internal contradictions. But the moment the division entered, conflict was born. And once that happens, there goes your peace. You start looking for peace in all the external, all the wrong places. And I don't know if y'all have ever read that story about what happened to Adam and Eve after they left the garden. If you didn't, let me put you on real quick. I ain't gonna go in depth. I'm just gonna give you a little bit of snippet of it. This is the part I want, they took out of the text because it was if you would have seen this, you could have recognized what showed up in you a little bit easier. This wasn't just about obedience. Something shifted within them. What was once whole became divided. They didn't just leave the garden. They lost their alignment within themselves. There was fear now, where there was once clarity. There was shame where there was once openness. There was hiding where there was once wholeness. And you start to see something else emerge. Conflict. The kind where you feel what you're feeling and what you do are no longer the same. The kind where you know, but you don't act like what you know. The kind where you start separating yourself from yourself. The same pattern is the same right now today. Because how many times have you known something wasn't right, but you still went with the program? Stop and think about that. We oftentimes look back hindsight and say, well, I knew, I just went along with it because I thought possibly. We've all been there. How many times have you felt something was off, but you ignored it? How many times have you heard a voice say, don't do that? But you you talk yourself out of it. Or you said it was the devil. You blamed it on something else. That's the part that I'm talking about. Anytime there's internal conflict where you hear something or something happens and there's not agreement between the two, that's not peace. That's that split. That's Ty talk. That's what Ty is talking about tonight. That's the same internal conflict that started in that moment. And what's dangerous is we've learned how to function in that state. We've learned how to smile in it, how to perform in it, even to worship in it, while at the same time being divided, leaving that place still in turmoil. And that's why I had to go back and ask, if that moment introduced division, the real peace must be the return to wholeness. What do y'all know about returning to wholeness? Have you ever heard that concept? Let me return to wholeness. And the fact of the matter is, you can experience chaos and still be at peace with that. But you cannot be in conflict with yourself and call it peace. Because peace is not the absence of chaos. Chaos can exist around you and you still be grounded. But the moment you are fighting yourself, denying yourself, avoiding what you know is true, that's an internal war. And we've mislabeled that for too long. We've called so many things peace. We call silence peace. We call I'm gonna avoid it. We call that peace. We call distractions peace, not realizing peace is a state. It's a frequency. And that frequency, there's no division in that. No, there's no fragmentation or internal confliction or contradictions. So when you're drinking, you say, I'm gonna go out and get me a drink. And for a moment, everything slows down and you just feel better. That's not peace. Some people that are substance users, and for a moment, that noise goes away. I feel a little bit better now. That's not peace. Some people even self-harm, cut themselves, or do violate themselves, or have thoughts of wanting to not be here. Let's be honest. I have to be honest. Based on what people have been through, it makes sense. I understand. When you've carried around pain long enough, you just want to quiet the noise. You just want anything that gives you a break from it. I want to call that peace. And in those moments, I can feel quiet and still. I tried my hardest with this topic, family. When I tell you I was warned against myself with this topic because, I was suffering with a bit of cognitive dissonance because at one time I've been where a lot of people, where I'm talking and telling people, hey, this is what's showing up and this is what we need to pay attention. I've been there. So I had to take some extra time to help gain a better understanding of this peace that I'm speaking of tonight. This was not easy for me, because I needed to separate it. I needed to label. I needed to explain it in a way that I can make it easy for everybody to understand. And I had to come to the knowing that peace is peace. There's no separation in it. It does not change. It does not become something else depending on the situation. What changes is how you relate to what you're in. That's it. Because then, you can be in pain, you can be in chaos or turmoil and still experience a kind of quietness. But we have to be honest about where that quiet is. Because there's a difference between being at a peace in your mess and doing what it takes to become whole, to become alive, to be complete. And you cannot be whole partial. And that's what we're walking around doing. They give us one side of a story, and we're running around saying, I am. No, that's not how it works. But let's tell the truth tonight. You're escaping those external things that have been disrupting your inner peace because it only works when you're avoiding yourself. And if it only works when you're numbing what you feel. I know what that's like to numb and say, you know what? You did me like this time. And I slowly start just disconnecting from myself where I'm going to the place because I don't want to feel. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to allow somebody to treat you so bad for such a long time. You just grown numb to. I know family members right now have gone so numb they can just ignore it. And that's not how it's meant to be. Let me be clear so there's no misunderstandings, because I will communicate this effectively. First, family, what you think is peace ain't it. And it's not. Peace is not any of the things that I'm naming off to you. When I say this is not that, this is not that. So peace is not. You may want to get a pen and paper and write this down. Peace is not you staying quiet when something isn't right. Silence is betrayal. Ty talks about that all the time. You hear me say it all the time. Silence is betrayal. When you see something, say something. That's what they used to tell me back in the day. And I took that literally. And I was saying all the things. And I got in trouble lots of times because I just couldn't stop saying. Peace is not avoiding those hard conversations. Peace is standing in the space and having those hard conversations and being intimate with your partner, intimate in your relationships so that you guys can get on one accord. That's what it means when it says two, when two or more are gathered in my name. And that has been taken out of such context. I just can't even believe how y'all take this and twist it all around just to try to make it fit your narrative. That is not how you giving it is not what it means. Going along with the program. This ain't that. Listen, I can't really talk about it, but I was working this job and they was, my partner was like, I don't understand how you talk. And I started standing up for myself in these spaces. And they was like, oh, we got to let you go. And I was like, why did I have to lose my job? Because I'm just trying to take up for myself. I'm just trying to speak what I'm supposed to speak. I went on another job and I went in that same way. You ain't finna do, you're not gonna do anything to me. It's hard for people to take. And I understand that if I don't understand anything. The truth, the harsh truth, a lot of people can't take it and they're not used to it. To walking around pretending that everything is okay and it's not. Suppression, suppressing how you feel. We've unpacked suppression before. Agreeing just to avoid conflict. Listen, healing is on the opposite side of discomfort. So the things that you're uncomfortable in are going to be the ways that you can start the healing process for yourself. If nobody told you this, Ty is telling you this. Your healing is on the other side of that discomfort that you're facing. So stop telling them storms to go away like they told you to do. I told a storm. No. We're not telling the storms to go away because we know there's going to be some beautifulness when that on the opposite side. What about running and playing in the rain? What about the beautifulness in that? We just want to hold on to those traditions. Keeping those traditions, we don't even understand. Why do we even have these traditions? I guarantee you, if I asked you why you do that, why do you do what you do to hold on to these things that you say is just bringing you so much peace? I guarantee you cannot put it in words. And that's what we're unpacking. None of those things are peace. That's fear and that's conditioning. Peace is not about keeping things the same. It's about making things right, restoring the natural order. I don't know about that, Ty. Jesus is love and he's peace. I guess a lot of you don't read it. I believe it's lies. The way that you were given this peace. Let me show you. I don't like to just make assumptions. I'm going to show you, and we're going to unpack that. We just unpacked last week on how Jesus was about that life. Y'all got to come in here and join me live, because if you miss it, when I started to tell you about these things that I unpacked last week, you're going to miss it. Or you have to go over on Facebook and watch it. I think they keep it up for 30 days now. But anyway, the story that I told last week. I'm saying again, because those of you that are new need to know this. I'm telling this allegorical. They tell you these things really happen. Let me say this for everyone. This is not historical. But because you choose to take it literal for shits and giggles, we're going to keep the party going. Let's keep that party going. So remember, Jesus had already started making a name for himself. And before y'all pick Barabbas over him, and I'm saying y'all because y'all out here saying y'all claim these people to be y'all ancestors. So I don't want to be disrespectful. So I gotta let y'all have what y'all say is yours, right? So don't take offense to this, because this is what y'all say. People were following him. He was healing the sick. He was, teaching in a different way. And most importantly, he was challenging the system. AKA, he was a peace breaker. Let me retract that. Maybe what they thought was peace at the time. How was he challenging the system, Ty? I got you. He was disturbing the peace by questioning what had been handed down. He was exposing the people who were calling it right. Now watch this. This is the part Christians won't do. He was questioning it. He was challenging it. Christians, they won't step outside of what they were taught. They'll protect it to no end, even if it's not working. Not Charles Jesus. But he said, if God didn't find fault in the first, there would be no need for the second. Let me go back to the story. So the Pharisees and the scribes, them boogers rolled up on him. They rolled up on him because he was messing with the church's money. I had already unpacked this last time. So he was messing with the church's money. He was calling all these disruption. He was questioning things, and they wanted him gone. So as they was watching him, they noticed the disciples had, they were starting to eat, but they didn't wash their hands. Look, don't kill the messenger. I'm just giving you the story that came from your good book. Y'all asked me for the books. I'm giving you the books. But when they seen that the disciples didn't wash their hands, they thought it was a great opportunity to say, I got him. I got him now. So they asked him, say, brother, why your people out here eating with them dirty hands? They didn't wash their hands. Why they doing that? Why are they breaking these traditions of the elderly Moses? They supposed to wash their hands before they eat. They were eating without performing the ritual of hand washing. If you don't know what a ritual is, now pause. I know some of y'all thinking, that makes sense, Ty, to wash your hands before you eat. I wash my hands before I eat. But that's that carnal mind thinking. We don't do that over here. We use our African minds to think over here. So we have to know that wasn't just literally about washing hands. And I'm going to unpack why it wasn't just literally that. That was not about hygiene. That was about tradition. How do I know this? These were man-made rules. You know what you do at your house when ain't nobody looking? So don't play with me. You know that you done went to eat your food before without washing your hands. So please. These were traditions that were passed down from generation to generation. And in their minds, if you broke those traditions, something was wrong. But here's the part you'll miss if you don't show up with awareness. They were so busy protecting what was handed down because Jesus had them stepped on their feet. The rituals, the traditions, they couldn't recognize what was happening right in front of them. Jesus said to the brothers, look, brother, you honor God with your lips, but your heart is far from him. I'm going to put a pin in it right there for just a minute. I'm going to come back. We've unpacked the hardening of the heart. And I have to stop and give you guys these segues because I don't know, what you've seen. So I have to catch you up and bring you with me. And if you were there, we should know where this information would plagiarize from because I broke it down for us. If you trace it back, you will realize that, this didn't start with Christianity. Long before the concept of Jesus, Before they gave you this, my aunt understood something about the heart. In my aunt, your heart was weighed against a feather, not your words, not your rituals or traditions of washing your hands. It was weighed against your heart. So y'all quick to say, God knows my heart, but don't know what it means. Not what you're performing in front of people, your heart. And if your heart was heavy, it weighted down with deception and misalignment and inner conflict. It didn't matter what you said, because the heaviness meant one thing: you are out of alignment with truth. Now let's bring us back forward. When the text talks about that hardened heart, it's the same principle. A hardened heart is a heavy heart, heavy with all the things. So when Jesus says your heart is far from me, he's not just correcting behavior. He's saying you're out of alignment. You've mastered the ritual, but lost the essence. You've learned how to appear clean, washing the hands, while carrying the weight within you. And that's why they couldn't recognize him. That's why he said your heart is heavy. You don't see clearly. You don't respond to truth. You defend what's familiar. And that was familiar for them. And that's exactly what was happening. They were defending the tradition that was familiar to their heavy hearts. And that's the same thing happening today. People aren't lacking information. They are carrying too much weight to receive it. So this is why we can't understand why we're not holding ourselves accountable, ladies, because we're carrying all the baggage. We're carrying too much weight to receive what people are trying to bring into our space. So tonight we talk about peace. We're not talking about what you perform. We're talking about what your heart is carrying. Because a heavy heart can never experience peace. Because it's going to be too heavy when it's weighed. Thank you, family. Your heart is too heavy to accept that love that's showing up, to accept all of those higher frequency vibrations that show up. Your heart is too heavy. Welcome in, family. Topic tonight, peace breaker. And Ty's going to come in and give you the honest truth about it. Why can you do that, Ty? Why do you do that? Because I lived it. And I know that heavy hearts come with evil thoughts. I know that heavy hearts come with deceit and anger and corruption and resentment and envy. This is why you can't be happy for your sister, because your heart is heavy. This is why you can't be happy for your brother when he got his wife, because your heart is heavy. But he was saying your focus, and I'm talking about Jesus in the allegory, your heart, he's saying that you're focused on cleaning the outside hands while you're still internally conflicted. I'm gonna break it down metaphysically. I know y'all don't like when I say the word metaphysics, but I love it over here. And I do. Family, that was not about food. This is about where peace comes from. And the Pharisees and the scribes represent external rituals, appearances, managing behavior. Your Jesus represented internal alignment, truth, integrity, wholeness. So when they say your disciples are unclean, what they were really saying is they're not following the system that gives us a sense of order, that chaos that I'm so used to. They're not following it. I don't like what they're doing because it doesn't align with what we think it should be. And Jesus is saying, go sit down somewhere. Your system does not produce peace. It is non-effective. That's why we're getting rid of it. Because you can wash your hands, you can follow the rules and look the part and still be divided. You can still be resentful. You can still be dishonest. You can have this internal war, this tug of war going on inside of you. I want to be happy for them, but I just feel some type of jealousy on the inside of me. That's how it goes. How does that happen, Ty? By ignoring, trying to manage, and with religion, family, it's being used as a tool to distract the inner work that you need to do. Who created sin? I don't know. Who did? You were given the concept. You were given the concept, so who did it? I stand on the principles of Ma'at. Peace, justice, and righteousness. Okay. Whatever it looks like for you, have it. But I'm going to ask you, how's that show up in your life? That very narrative, that you were given, that tool that's used in the white supremacy system. And I hate to say that YT, I don't know, I'm hoping that's TikTok friendly. It's being used to distract that inner work that you need to do. This is the perfect example of slave morality and performative righteousness. The pharaohs created a system where good equals obedience, clean equals conformity, righteous equals following the rules, but internally they were not being transformed. They replaced the true becoming with moral performance. And Jesus, he's the disruptor. He exposed that. You're not clean. You're just control. This is why I have to say, God, as y'all know it, and what was given to you is dead, because instead of confronting your own darkness, your own contradictions, your own impulses, they give you rituals to feel clean. What you do not confront within you will manage externally. It will manifest on the outside of you. You blame it on some. Listen, when you're doing the thing, sin, call it whatever you want, when you're doing that thing that they told you not to do, it's so hard for us to stay away from it because it's not natural. So the hand washing becomes a symbolic attempt to control inner chaos without integrating it. Let me give it to you this way. The allegory of Jesus in this instance is really teaching in that moment that peace does not come from controlling appearances. It comes from integrating what is happening inside. In other words, you can follow all these rules. You can do all the things right. You could say the things right and present yourself in a certain way, and an inner world. And if your inner world is divided, you are not at peace. And when you get to what you call them pearly gates to meet God, he will say, I know you not. I know you not. Because you was out here healing in my name. You was using your lips. You was doing all the traditions that they told you to do because you didn't get your house in order. And I'm not talking about a house over here. I'm talking about this temple. When we bring that in today, how it shows up in our lives is how we prioritize what what can be seen in our experiences. We can be clean on the outside through behaviors, through image, and through routines. We can learn how to speak a certain way. We can learn how to shout a certain way. We got a routine with hopping on our Honda when we're speaking in tongues. We got all the things. We know how to, act a certain way. When we get to church, we put on our best Sunday best, and we're parading around acting different. We know how to present ourselves in a way that looks like we're put together. We're put together in front of everybody. But the way we go and blame things on the devil and never take accountability. And we're literally dying on the inside. Let me tell you something. The mental gymnastics that are done to make sense out of all these things that y'all do and say I just can't fathom. I just don't understand. I do understand it. Let me take that back. I got to hold both truths. I understand it. When I watch it, I look back at myself and I'm oftentimes ashamed. I'm ashamed of where I was, where I would just take this information. And it wasn't because I knew for myself. A lot of it came from somebody else giving me that. And that was and internally I was warring with that. I was asking questions. I'm saying, like, it don't make sense that we had two people on earth, and now we got all these millions of people. How is it possible that two people could have produced, and this is a child, how is it possible that two people can produce all of these peoples and all of these different colors? Listen, that is not peace. And I know what it's like to defend something that makes absolutely no sense. Punishing and having self-hatred for the things that come natural to me. Saying that I was born in sin for the things that come natural to me as an African. We avoid all those things to get us to look outside of ourselves. And those things bring us into, those things that we're trying to stay away from, bring us into a real alignment. Question the obvious contradictions, the contradictions after contradictions. One of the craziest contradictions ever. I'm not going to say ever because there's a lot of them. One crazy contradiction. Let me start there. It's coming up. And I'll be wrong not to say or speak on it. We got Easter Sunday going to be coming up here in a little bit. We're going to put on our Sunday best. And I'm asking, how is it possible when the date changes almost every year? Easter Sunday ain't never, like, how is it on Sunday every year? The dates change almost every year. I got a question. Does your birthday change every year? Does your birthday change everywhere? Does your people that you care about that's transition, does their date that they transition change? Every year? No. But they put it where they want it to be. They just decide, I'm going to put it on this day this year. And if anybody, else did that, you would have a lot of questions. Why they keep changing their birthday? Her birthday, she said her birthday was on the 20th last year. So how she celebrating on the 10th this year? Y'all would do that to people. But for this reason, it's okay. You would have all kinds of questions. That's confliction. Let me guess, it's symbolic. That's what we're going to say. It's symbolic of something, Ty. Doesn't matter when it actually happened. It doesn't matter what day. That keeps us moving the goalposts and the parts of ourselves that don't fit the image we've created. And that's not the only thing either. If you pay attention, they do it with tides. They do it with, we're gonna move the goalpost. What we said was this. Now we got to come back and give you something different. I have to ask, how many contradictions do you need to start examining some of these things that don't bring you peace? And over time, those very things that, we're going to celebrate Easter on the 14th of April this month. This time, next year is going to be on the 28th of March. And we start calling that, after over that time, we start calling that peaceful. It's the effort of keeping up appearances. We are wearing masks while all along those unresolved emotions just get suppressed and turn into repression. Jesus confronted the same thing. This was not about, the allegory demonstrating dismissal. It was about breaking peace. So when you hear Ty, saying peace comes from within and everything starts with you, that's not a passive statement that I'm making. It's not about ignoring discomfort or pretending everything is okay. It's not okay. It's about doing the work that comes with the faith that you're saying that you have, because faith without work is dead. It's to bring your inner world into alignment so what you feel, what you know, and how you live are no longer in confliction with one another. And that's however you see it. Whatever you want to put, you put your name on it. Put it on there. Faith is the context. It's not just belief. Or what you say you trust. It's what you stand on internally. It's your morals. It's your values. But if there's no internal work to support that, no honesty, no confrontation, no integration, then it remains incomplete. You will never have peace, justice, and righteousness when you hear that. When you get that, and when you be in alignment and peace, justice, and righteousness, you can say job well done. Hold on, family. And this has become something you say rather than something you live. So peace is something you arrive to. When there's no contradictions with you, and if that's true, we have to start asking deeper questions. What did this contradiction come from in the first place? Because we weren't created in conflict. We were created with soft hearts. Ask anybody. You want somebody to say you thank you, family. You want somebody to show up for you? Ask the Black woman. Ask the Black man. We actually were created with soft hearts. We were open. We were responsive. We were aligned with what is true without needing to fight ourselves to get there. And when you look at the allegory of Adam and Eve, what you were really seeing is not just disobedience. You are seeing the moment conflict enters the human experience. And all they are doing is what Jesus did, telling you a parable to demonstrate a point. That's all. But they knew based on your conflict and what this narrative that they were going to give you, that you wouldn't search for yourself for the answer. So what's the point, Ty? How does this show up in my life today? Listen, the point is, I'm not talking about a born in sin baby. I'm not. I'm talking about before life started lifing, before you were hurt, before you were betrayed, before somebody crossed the line with you, before you were taught what was acceptable and what wasn't, before you learned right from wrong. You were just you. Thank you, family. You were just you. You didn't question yourself. You didn't second guess your feelings. You didn't wake up wondering if you were too much or if you weren't enough. What happened then, Ty? If you were happy, you laughed. And I'm talking about at the time before you were touched or before you were tampered with, before all the things of life got in the way. You were happy, you laughed. If you were uncomfortable, you cried. If something didn't feel right, you responded. That's it. No internal arguments. That's what the Adam and Eve story is pointing to. Not just two people in the garden, but a state of being before the split happened. Because the moment life starts teaching you things, the moment you got corrected, rejected, or hurt, or spanked, or whatever your punishment was, something changed in you. Topic tonight is peace breaker. Now, instead of just feeling, you started thinking about, how should I feel now that I got whooped? How should I feel now that I got rejected? Now, instead of just being, you started watching yourself be. You start saying things like, should I say this? Because last time I got whipped for it. Is this going to be okay if I say it this way or if I do it this way? What are they going to think if I do this? Am I wrong for feeling this way? These are the things that show up for you. These are the things that showed up for me. And now you're not just living, you're managing yourself. That's the moment you partook. That's when the split happens for you. Now there's two of you, or if not more. There's a part of you that feels, and a part of you that that's judging what you feel. And that's your genesis. Where the conflicts start. So today, what does it look like? And I know I keep saying that because I want us to understand what it looks like and how it shows up in our lives. Thank you, beloved. What does this look like in our lives? It looks like smiling when you're not okay. It looks like staying quiet when something feels wrong. It looks like calling something peace when inside you're dying. And you are the modern day Adam and Eve. It's not about a fruit. It's not about the moment you stop trusting what was happening inside of you and started looking outside of yourself to tell you who to be. This doesn't get any simple. It doesn't get any simpler. The serpent was what was showing up externally to them, telling them who to be. Y'all need to be eating. We need to be eating when Ty comes on here and shares this. Peace, beloved. Pretty face. Welcome in. And ever since then, we've been trying to get back to the place where what you feel what you know and how you live are all in alignment, where polarity before the partaking. That's where we're trying to get. They did the same thing in the part that was taken out. If you go and read it, you'll know they were trying to do everything to get back in alignment. One time Adam was in the water and prayed for days in the part that they took out. He prayed for days. The goal was always to try to get back to alignment, get back to what we were before we made this decision, before we were influenced by this external thing outside of us to do what we did. Originally, there was no internal division, no separation between the place where things are felt. Now, let me say this. Adam and Eve was an allegory, but it doesn't change the fact that this is human nature. This is the human experience. It does not change that. Our ancestors' splits were maintained through peace, justice, and righteousness. Everything that stood on ma'at, so that you can be balanced. Before there was language, they knew this, and it's on the walls. They're trying their best to destroy it, but it's written in stone. And if you look across our ancient systems, not just one tradition, you'll find similar ideas expressed in different ways. In the teachings of Ma'at, one of the things that Dr. Simatali has introduced to me that brought into my awareness, that focus was on the conditions of the heart being light as a feather symbolized. It has a symbolism. Alignment, truth, integrity. A heavy heart represents imbalance, contradictions, and unresolved inner weight. It's about us across time recognizing the same inner reality. They say nothing new under the sun, and history repeats itself. It's the same thing. So when the biblical text plagiarized this information, this is hardened. That's the hardening of the heart. It describes the same conditions, not just stubbornness. It's the results of prolonged inner conflict. It's what's happening when you know what you feel and what you're told are not in agreement. When you move away from your internal awareness, family, and you begin relying on external authorities to tell you what's right and what's wrong, some sky daddy is going to come down and he's going to do all the things like they did in the garden. What is acceptable and what is not, you create distance. You create distance. They created distance. And that distance creates tension. And that tension over time hardens your heart. Those traditions that I speak on tonight are not the enemy, and I'm not saying that. This is why Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the law, I came to fulfill it. He wasn't saying throw it away. He was saying, y'all missed the point. I'm trying to get you, I'm waving the flag to get you to see. Because what was supposed to help you live right turned into something people just do without understanding it. So today it looks like following the rules, but don't know why. Do the right thing, but don't feel right inside. To be good, but still be confused and stressed. So he was saying, all he was saying is, instead of just acting loving, you are love. You are love. Instead of just acting peaceful, you feel peace inside. That's what fulfilling it means. It's not about doing it right. It's about becoming so aware that right actions flow from you naturally with peace, justice, and righteousness. Listen, Babies even know. Thank you, beloved. Babies even know. You know, when babies try to test you and they know something wrong, they listen, babies, it's out of the mouth of babes. If we pay attention to the babies, we can know. Listen, when a baby is trying to do something that they know is wrong, they'll look at you and try to do it. It's the same thing. And those traditions were given and are something we've repeated and reinforced over time. It may have at one point have served a purpose and created order. But the real question is not whether it existed. The question is, does it still produce alignment? Is it working right now today for you? The same thing that you did 10 years ago. Is it still working now today? And I have to say, and just off the top of my head, if there was no fault in what you did 10 years ago, when you got that man and it didn't work out, if there's no fault in what you did 10 years ago, you wouldn't have a need for another man. Thank you, Doc. If there's no fault in what you did, if there's no fault in what grandma and them did, they wouldn't tell you. They wouldn't tell you, don't do as I say. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. They wouldn't tell you that if there was no fault in it. Thank you, beloved. It doesn't. Does it produce confliction within you? These are questions we need to ask. Is this producing some type of confliction within you? Because if there was no fault in what you were doing and what you've been doing all your life, you would have all the abundance you need. You would have all the things. You would have everything that you needed. You would have no desires. And how do I know this, Ty? And I'm glad you asked. I'm living it. And I found fault in the first. Yeah, I found fault in a lot of things that I've done first. I found fault in believing in something externally outside of myself. I found fault in it. Why would I continue to do the same thing and expect some different results? That's insanity. And you can recognize when you're operating from unexamined traditions by how it shows up in your life. And when you find yourself following something without understanding it, and I found myself following religion, I found myself doing all kinds of things that did not work. And religion, I was introduced at a young age. And I know I didn't know better. But I said because it made me feel good. My grandmother sat me down and said, you know what? If you don't do what God say, you're going to go to hell. And I dreamed about that for weeks as a kid. So I'm just like, I'm lurking around her room. This is my great grandmother. Shout out, rest in power, Rosalie Ashe. Peace to the God. She sat me down and she told me about this. So I'm lurking outside of her bedroom. Can you tell me about what I can do? Because I don't want to go to hell. And she gave me this beautiful story on how I can do it. And it felt so good to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And now I don't have to worry about going to hell. This is what we're giving our children. And I know that there's no way I understood it. No way. And I'm sure I was probably about 5 or 6 Then we used to call it the moaning bench. Get on the moaning bench. I got to be baptized because I got to save myself from going to hell. And these concepts, and I signed up for on a contract that I had no idea what was happening. Some of it I have a hard time right now digesting at this big age. And my prefrontal cortex is in place. Hearing the things and the carrying on that happened in this text, some of it is downright deplorable. And my values and my morals, my peace, justice, and righteousness won't let it sit right with me. Thank you, family. It won't let me sit. It doesn't sit right with me. And when you feel that tension, but you suppress it, knowing that it don't sit right with you, you stay compliant. That's your external actions not matching what internally you know. You know good and well it ain't okay to grape no children or bash them over the heads. You know it's not right to grape women. You know it's not right for that Philadelphia love. You know that ain't right. And when you rely on, an authority that, rather than your own awareness, that's a recipe for disaster. At that point, you're not at peace. I was not at peace with the things that I had read. And I was maintaining something that is not for me. My nature goes against it. I'm not here to destroy anybody's peace. I'm breaking peace, and I'm the peace breaker, and I'm exposing what has been called peace. That is actually conflict. That is actually distraction. Because over time, history has been reshaped. They have reinterpreted and handed that information to us in ways that don't reflect its original meaning. Practices that once had a purpose and a function were filtered through different lenses and given new definitions. Let me give you an example of what I mean when I say it's been reinterpreted over time. I'm making good time. Welcome in, family. I was watching this documentary. And there was an elder explaining to the European that was interviewing him about what people call voodoo and the voodoo doll. And he said something that struck me. Because what we've been taught growing up is voodoo and was, especially a voodoo doll, was evil, that it was dark, that it was harmful. That's something, that it was something that you should be fearing. But he broke that thing down to the European so that he could understand. And it was so beautiful. So I'm going to set the stage. I'm going to tell you and share with you what he said. He said, there was a time when my people, and he was an African, he was one of us. There was a time when my people didn't have access to hospitals. We didn't have the option to get treated. And we relied on our healers, our natural healers. We didn't know how to read or write. So the way things are today, it wasn't none of that. So my people would go to this healer, and the healer would create this figure, a doll, that represented the person, whoever was coming in with the ailment. And when the person came in with the issue, they would treat them. They would tell them, hey, my head hurts, right? My head hurts and it won't stop hurting. I need something to help me with this pain. And they would treat them. They would, put lavender oil or, give them some peppermint, whatever it was that they would give, whatever their ailment was, they would give them something to treat it. And they would mark the doll in the position where the ailment was. So if it was your arm, they'll put a pin in the arm. If it was your head, they would put a pin in the head of this doll. Not to harm them, but to remember. So when and if they came back, the healer could look at the doll and say, this is what we worked on last time. We worked on your arm. We worked on your head. How are things going, with what we worked on last time? And he said to the man, it was a way for us to keep record and a way for us to track what we were healing, a way for us to stay constant in care with what the ailment was to the person that came to see me. And when you really think about that, who gave us this narrative that this doll sticking the pins in it was about, oh, I'm going to get you. This is something I'm going to put a curse on you, came from the European. This is, go and look it up. Don't take my word for anything. Study and show yourself approved. And that's not far from what happens today. When you go to the doctor, they pull up your chart. They make you fill out this paperwork. They look at the history. They ask you about, do you have any blood disorders? Do you have any this? Do you have any that? They write it down. They chart it. They see what was, treated before, they move forward. Same principle, different form. But it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when we do it. And somewhere along the line, that practice was reinterpreted. They reframed and they gave it a different meaning. They are not at all creative. They took something that worked for us, that's natural for us to use our herbs. I'm going to put a pin in this doll so I can make sure that Ty, when she comes to me with an ailment, that what I did for her, I know what I did because I marked it. They stole that and turn around and tell you it's demonic. And now something that once served a purpose, a beautiful purpose, is seen as something dangerous. Now hear me clearly. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm showing you how things can shift over time, how meanings can change, how something functional can become misunderstood. And this matters because they have taken the biblical text, retranslated, reinvented, all the re's. Peace, brother. All the re's, they redo it, they rename it, take everything. And they give it to you the way they want you to have it. And if they can do that, they can take that. What else are they lying about? You can take something you created and turn it into something you follow by not righteously giving it to people. And we just take it and we glorify it without understanding why. And I'm here to disrupt that. So call me the peace breaker. And that's how your tradition started. Those little small, simple things, it gets passed down, it gets repeated, it gets reinforced until you stop questioning it. And the moment you stop questioning it, you stop checking if it still, aligns with you. And that's how you can start ending up maintaining something, going around saying voodoo and Evi is the devil without even knowing the history of why it even started, where it came from, who painted this narrative before all of that happened. And they're doing the same shit in the doctor's office. It's the same thing, but you don't call that evil. You worship that. They're doing the same thing that your ancestors did. And that internal conflict to say, I can subscribe to that. But what my ancestors and what they put me on about what my ancestor did, that conflict, that doesn't bring you into alignment. But you still call that truth. And if we can mislead, if we can misunderstand something like that, I can only imagine how much we've misunderstood, within ourselves. How much misunderstanding do we have within us? The issue is not just what changed out there. It's what happens within you. When you follow something that puts you within conflict with what's naturally resonating with you, that's the conflict happening within you between what you feel, what you know, and what you think you're supposed to be. And once that happens internally, it doesn't stay there. It becomes interpsychic. Now it shows up in your relationships, in your systems, in your culture. There's blame. You start projecting and you have all this fear and control shows up. So what was once internal alignment leading to external harmony becomes internal conflict, leading to external control. And now that makes so much sense why people start turning to structure, rules, and traditions, not because those things are wrong, but because they are trying to resolve something internal and they don't have any place else to look but outside of themselves. And I told us we're getting rid of the goats. And 2026 is going to be the season of you getting rid of the goats. You getting rid of the blame. I can't blame nobody because it's me. It's me, oh Lord. Use that there. Y'all use it everywhere else when you want to say it's me, oh Lord. Say it now. Hold your chest out and say that proud. We have to be careful because you're not wrong to question these traditions. Ty says, if it don't connect, if it don't make sense, question it. I'm going to say it all the time, hands down. Because anything that causes you to override what you know internally, that creates a gap between your inner and your outer life, over time, it's going to harden your heart. And it's not because you're broken, because you're not, but because you're in conflict. So instead of reacting, we start asking better questions. And we get on our kids, and we need to be in our terrible tools. That's why it tells you need to go back to when you were a child, because the child is pure and ain't why. Thank you, family. Why? They say, go to bed. Why? Go eat your food. Why? Go to church. Why? You need to be asking why. You need to be asking them why. Pastor say, give me your tithes. Why? I need to know why for all the things. Y'all play too much. Because I need to know, Pastor. As you give me this message and you tell me about I need to bring my first fruit, I need to make sure that it's in alignment. Or does it create more conflict within me? Does it create a reason for me to have to, if I'm paying my tithes and giving you my first fruit, will it create a conflict where I can't pay my other bills? Come on, Ty, that's tea. There should not be any conflict. Now let's go a little bit deeper. I'm making good time. There's a concept called homeostasis. And what that means in your system is always trying to maintain balance without your permission. But homeostasis does not care if the balance is healthy. It only cares if it's consistent. So if dysfunction has been repeated long enough, guess what? It starts to feel like peace. if traditions has been followed long enough, it starts to feel like truth. So a peace breaker is not someone who creates chaos. I'm not a creator of chaos. Now, if I need to be, I'm still with my aunt. Hey, but I'm going to do it lawfully. I'm going to do it with peace, justice, and righteousness. But the peace breaker that I am is someone who recognizes what we've been calling peace suppressing us. I can recognize that it suppressed me. And instead of protecting it, I need to be interrupting it. And I'm not just speaking that to me. I'm speaking that to you. Instead of protecting this thing, we need to be interrupting it. They question, they refuse to perform. And here's the part most people won't say to you, but Ty is going to say it. I got the audacity. I'm going to say it. You can replace the truth with rituals, practices, and performance and still call it God. But if there is something real, something true, whether you call it God, truth, or alignment, it is not impressed by your performances. It responds to alignment. It's just like a frequency. I used to, Dr. Simitari brought into this space. He used to always get me try to understand what alignment looks like. And he painted a picture. Do you remember back in the day, we had those radios with the dial and you had to tune in just right to get to the right station to be aligned so that you can hear it clear. Otherwise, if you too much to the left or you too much to the right, it's not going to come through clear. That's what Ty unpacking tonight. This is why if it's real, you're going to get up there to them streets paved with gold and you're going to get turned around. You're going to send your butt back. You're going to say, listen, I know you not. You're going to get turned around at the gate. You think you think you are going. But if you don't get this internal situation right, if it was true, just putting you on. Believe what you want to believe, but I'm putting you on. So the question should be whether or not tradition is producing alignment, or is it producing conflict within yourself? How can we know that, Ty? I get so excited when y'all ask questions. You can recognize when you're operating from unexamined traditions, when you follow, something without understanding it. If you don't understand it, that part. If you're feeling any type of tension, anxiety, or just uneasy, but you suppress it to stay compliant, your external actions don't match your internal knowing. You rely more on that authority outside of you than your own awareness. And this is where your voice comes in. Again, I repeat, I am not here to destroy y'all's peace, but I'm here to expose what causes distraction, what caused distractions in my life. They have taken our history, they have colonized it, and they have reinterpreted, they have reinterpretations of our cultural practices that once had meaning and functions. They reinterpret that and gave it to us a whole different way. Listen, family, the story of the partaking, changing, they didn't just gain awareness, they became divided by it. And now what was once whole split into God knows how many pieces. I don't know. And God said in the text, everything I created was good and anything else don't exist. I never hear anybody talking about that. Why I never hear y'all talk about that and what that means? So that must mean evil is good because he created that too. I'm just saying. Has to be good because anything else don't exist. So when I look at all of this, I don't see confusion anymore. I see patterns. I see how easy it is to inherit a way of being, a way of thinking, and never questioning if it's actually in alignment with who I stand for, who I think the highest version of myself is. I see how people can learn how to function without ever becoming whole. And that's not an attack. That's awareness. Because I lived it, and that God is dead to me. What I hear now is not destruction, it's exposure. Exposure of anything we've placed above, truth that keeps us from ourselves. What I hear is responsibility. I hear Ty holding herself accountable because I don't have nobody I can blame. I can say, the devil made me do it. Ty is responsible for Ty just as well as you are responsible for you, because everything starts with you. That peace is not found in what I have avoided, but in what I'm willing to face. Standing between my chaos and order is that I don't have to run from discomfort to be grounded. I don't have to do that. I'm reminded that not everything we've normalized was meant to free us. I'm learning that. Some things were simply repeated until they were felt like truth. And if I'm not careful, I won't just live in a system. I'll carry it. You'll carry that stuff that you think that you're not paying attention to. You'll carry that stuff. So for me, this is no longer about arguing about religion. I'm past that. Now, I will break some peace because I'm the peace breaker. It's not about rejecting everything I was taught. It's about discernment. We've unpacked that before. And I've held space. I got off right before 2 hours. That's it, family. I want to leave you guys with a quote as I get out of here tonight. Thank you guys for coming in, holding space with me for almost 2 hours now. And I want to leave y'all with a quote. Okay? I didn't find peace by staying quiet or trying to get it right. Peace begins the moment I stop abandoning myself. Because if it cost me my truth to keep it, it was never peace. And when I stop living against myself, everything falls away. And what remains is real. I'm out of here, family. I'm going to bid you guys a good night. Happy, what today is? Friday. Happy Friday. Hotel family.